All right, in that case, I would like to officially call to order the Thursday, September 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 2020 orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, subsection 18, and the 2020 order imposing restrictions on the number of people that may gather in one place. This public meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom video communications. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. The guidelines for participation being that you must utilize the chat or raise hand function to address the board. Sadly, you will remain on mute until you've been addressed by the board, and participants are required to display their first and last names. That said, we would like to officially start with the roll call, as is our custom. I am Brian Barabee.
Laura Stevenson.
Kip McNamara.
Jeff. Jeff Bryan
We've lost
is
him.
here.
He's fallen over.
I hope not. Okay. He is here. So if you want to open the first one. Oh, there he is.
Okay. Jeff, would you like to say your name? Oh, would you like to say your name for the fine people of Bolton when you have a minute as part of our roll call? How about with, yeah, there you go, with the mute off. Yep.
Is he typing it?
Might be.
Hi.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey,
Hey, I'm here, Jeff Bryan.
all right.
Thank you.
All right.
Geez, you got a haircut too, Brian. Oh my God, shaved your
Yeah,
beard,
just-
got a
I
haircut.
know.
Just brushed it back. That's really about it.
Unbelievable.
All right, so starting off this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing regarding a request for determination of applicability under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, regarding regarding a proposed solar ground mount and associated trenching at 113 Wilder Road. Is anybody here to represent the applicants this evening?
Yes. Matt Morrow is here to represent the applicant. He is unmuted. So Matt, if you would like to give a summary of your proposed project, I will be pulling up the proposed project to share my screen.
First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt Morrow. I am representing Kevin Pong. I'm actually here for the swimming pool on 265 Sawyer Road.
Yep.
So the yesterday afternoon, no, I'm sorry, it was Tuesday afternoon, DEP did issue a file number 112-0691 with no comment. The notice of intent I filed was for the installation of an in-ground swimming pool within the outer part of the outer riparian zone. As you can see on the screen, the graphic representation of the box outline of the pool and the concrete pad that goes around it. The dotted line in front of it is the outer riparian zone limits as drawn on the original plan for the house construction. The pool will be an in-ground swimming pool installed by Snyder Pools. It will be a saltwater pool with a cartridge filtration unit, and the cartridge filtration unit is located on the outer edge of the pool, closer to the house. The cartridge units are the units that Snyder Pools sells. That what they do is they you can pull the cartridge out, take it out of the riparian zone, buffer zone, clean it off, put it back, it pops right back in. It's a fairly simple project. These installs take basically about a week or less. You can see on the plan there is an existing retaining wall that was put there with the original house. The pool is to be installed in existing yard. There is no tree removal to be done on this property with the installation of this pool. It actually meets the state exemption criteria because it's in the outer riparian zone and it's greater than 50 feet from the edge of the high water mark, and it is out of the 100-foot buffer zone. The 100-foot buffer zone is pictured by the dotted line you see going by the retaining wall.
Could I interrupt for 1 second?
Please.
I'm sorry, Rebecca. I had opened 113 Wilder Road.
Oh, I apologize.
Do I
That
have
was
the
me.
right? Am I on the right agenda?
Let me, one moment. I apologize.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
Nope.
You're
that
fine.
was-
You're fine.
That's me. Why?
While we're waiting, it's nice to see everybody safe and well.
Thank
It's been a
you.
very,
You-
it's
you
been a
as
very
well,
rough-
yeah.
it's been a very rough year.
Brian, what is the date at the top of your agenda?
Thursday,
Sure.
September 3rd. I think it was the last one you had reminding us that there was a meeting tonight, and I used it to get the Zoom connection, and I printed it out.
I might have sent you the
Oh, no,
wrong-
no, you know what? It's on the bottom of the page. I do see the 265, and I'm sorry.
Okay. So
All right.
that,
Yeah, and that's an NOI, not an RDA.
yeah.
So seeing how I open 113 Wilder, is it okay for me to open the NOI for 265 Sawyer at the same time?
Sure.
Right? I see why not. I just got to remember to close Wilder. All right.
Yep.
All right, Matt. Sorry, we're going to go through this one more time real quick, and then I'll let you continue. I promise I listened to everything you said originally.
Please, not a
All
problem.
right, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing for a notice of intent of applicability under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, regarding a proposed in-ground pool installation at 265 Sawyer Road. And now, Mr. Barrow, if you would continue with your rundown of the plan, I am sorry for the confusion.
No problem. Sorry about that. I had to turn my air conditioner off. It would block my voice. Anyway, as I was stating, the pool actually is exempt under state criteria. However, under your bylaw, it is not. And in consulting with the pool installer and my client, we felt it was prudent to file the notice of intent. The erosion protection would be placed along the limits of the retaining wall. There would be wattles and silt fence. The wattles would be staked in, of course, and they would stay until the pool was done and the commission was satisfied that the ground around was stable and grown in. And I mean, that's basically it. It's a very simple proposal, straightforward.
So it looks like it hits the Wetlands Protection Act offsets, but not the Bolton bylaw offsets. Is that
No,
what I'm
actually,
understanding?
it's the opposite.
Okay.
It's triggered because it's in the riparian zone.
Yeah,
So in
coming off the
bylaw,
back.
it would
Yep.
require some type of a filing.
I see. Yep. No, I was looking at it backwards.
I just felt it was prudent to file both with this, even though it was exempt from the state, which the state did. I did talk to them. I mean, they understood. I felt it was prudent, get the DEP file number, have them look it over. I mean, I felt it was just more of a prudent step to take.
I understand. Are there any questions from initial questions from commission members? I'm to say not hearing any. It looks like it's probably over existing lawn right now.
That is correct. There's no trees to be removed from this proposal. It's all an existing yard.
And it also looks like it hits the leaching field. Is the leaching field going to be moved?
That's
Or
actually, that's the reserve area.
Oh,
And right
it
now,
is.
my client is working with the Board of Health. He has an engineer on staff from Whitman and Bingham Associates that is working with the Board of Health and providing a plan that shows, based on the regulations that were in effect when this septic system was installed, there is sufficient room in between the leaching trenches that a reserve area actually isn't required because of the room in between the leaching trenches actually acts as a reserve area by default.
And I'm familiar. I know a lot of places will try to do that now, and I know it can be done, but I'd like to see Board of Health sign off on that one first. And I'll ask Rebecca for her questions too, but this is what it seems very simple, but I'd almost like a site visit on this one. I'd kind of like to see what's going on. I'd kind of like to hear from Board of Health that they're going to be fine with the leaving that as the new reserve area, not pushing the reserve area back towards the riparian zone. Those are just my initial thoughts right now. Rebecca, do you have thoughts on this project?
I'm sorry, I'm just taking notes. I have actually the same thoughts, and my major concern was the fact that it's over the reserve leaching trenches. It does look like that's out of our jurisdiction as far as providing the reserve within the existing footprint of the existing leach field. However, that aside, I think it's important to note that if for some reason Board of Health, I would agree with you, Brian, that it would be beneficial to have the sign off from Board of Health first, because if they are not going to allow for that consideration, which as Matt stated, it's likely that they will by other projects that I've seen, then my concern would be if you're going to locate the pool there, you're going to need to locate the reserve leaching and then include that within a notice of intent as well. So I think a site visit would clarify for the commission. And since we have an interim period where it sounds like we would defer vote, or the commission would defer voting until after the Board of Health made a determination on that, I think we have the time to do a site visit.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. I agree. I think a site visit would be an opportune time to learn about this from my point of view. But you said it was going to be a saltwater pool, right?
That is correct.
So if it's a saltwater pool, I'm going to go back to the map. I can get back to the map here a minute. Yeah. No, I lost it. So if it's a saltwater pool, does that salt water affect what's going on past that 100-foot buffer that goes along the stone wall there? Or am I just missing something here? What is going on? I just was wondering about the salt water pool. How many gallons of water is going into this pool?
I don't know exactly how many gallons the pool holds. I mean, it is a 640 square foot structure with the apron. So I'm assuming it would hold a pretty decent volume of water.
Of water, yep. So
Now,
if we get a big rainstorm, and that salt water goes over the top of the pool and into the wetlands, is that a problem?
So
Is that something we should be considering, or?
Pools typically have, I think, an emergency overflow, if I'm not mistaken, Matt.
They have an emergency overflow of the filter system, and they also have an emergency backwash system going out of the filtration unit, which the filtration unit actually would be located either on the very edge or just outside of the outer riparian zone. So that would wind up putting it out of jurisdictional area altogether. Now, I also, by trade, am a chemist with many, many years of experience. This area is far enough away that if any, which would be a very de minimis amount of water, which were to go over the pool's edge and into the field, it would be filtered out by the existing lawn area long before it would even have any impact on the actual wetland itself. It's a very rare thing to happen. I know many people with saltwater pools, and at this distance, it's a pretty safe bet that it wouldn't be an issue.
So they don't do a discharge of that cartridge comes out, you take it away to the front yard, clean it up, and then go put it back in.
The Snyders, when they put pools into jurisdictional areas, not only do they always come forward, which is obviously a good thing, but the one thing they recommend to their clients is a cartridge filter unit. They cost about the same as a backwash unit. These cartridge filter units are specially made, and they're made to pop out and pop back in. The older style units used to have diatomaceous earth in them. These are a little bit different.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So it sounds like, Brian, you'd like to schedule a site visit at the
Yeah,
very least.
if possible. It seems pretty cut and dry what's going on. and I'll look again at the NOI too. I'd like to see the operations and management plan for cleaning. And again, I'm fine with the salt water. I'll take the salt pools over the chlorine pools. They tend to be a lot safer. But just curious how it's going to be filtered, where it will be drained, all of that good stuff. And yeah, site visits. Sorry to cut you off, Rebecca, but that's kind of
That's okay.
my outstanding thoughts right now, if that makes sense.
Okay.
What I will do, Mr. Chairman, pardon me, Rebecca, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
What I will do is I will have Mr. Snyder, the pool installer, accompany us on the site inspection. He is obviously got many years' experience and very much a professional in this, and he'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Perfect.
Thank you. I think it would be
Yeah.
helpful as well, Matt, if you would stake out all infrastructure associated with the pool for the site visit so that the commission is aware of where exactly it's going. And I would also include limitations of any patio area that we typically see around the pool itself, unless this box is inclusive of that, and inclusive of any fencing that is typically required by pools, unless the entirety of the property is fenced in. Because those are other pieces of infrastructure that will be within the resource area. My other question to the board would be, would we also like to know in the minutes that we are waiting to hear from Board of Health until we make a determination? I mean, until we issue an order of conditions, or is that something you see we can move forward through this process after the site visit and add a condition associated with the Board of Health sign off?
I think we would be fine not waiting for the Board of Health. Obviously, if we hear something from them in advance, that would be great.
Mhm.
But I think we'd be able to sign off conditional upon that.
Okay.
Our understanding is that the reserve trenching is going to be allowed to be in between the
Between.
existing trenching, and conditionally it's okay as long as that is the case. I
Okay.
just don't know Board of Health's full schedule when they're taking it up, and I'd hate to just wait on that if we can do it
Sure.
contingent upon that.
I can ask their staff next
Yeah.
week and confirm that with them. Maybe they have an answer by next week. When would you like to try and schedule a site visit for next week?
It's fine by me. I'll be around most days, evenings next week.
Okay. I think for me, Tuesday or Wednesday would work best. I don't need to be there, but of course I always offer that to the commission. Or I can go during the day and the commission can go in the evening if you choose to go on a different day.
I'm fine with either of those days, but I'm usually pretty easy. Wednesday, I would say after 2.
Okay.
Tuesday, just about any time. But do we want to send it out to commission members who may not be here tonight to see if we can get some more of them in first?
Yes, I will do that first thing.
All right.
Actually, I'll send out an email this evening so then I can get an answer first thing Tuesday morning. Matt, would you mind reaching out to your client and not only requesting that they or you stake out the infrastructure associated with the pool project, and also inquire whether or not they are available Tuesday or Wednesday evening, so the 8th or 9th of next week for a site visit?
Yes, I will do that. I'm sure I can get Snyder Pools to go to the site walk. I don't think that'll be an issue.
Okay.
And I, of course, will be there and will avail myself to whatever time you guys want, to your convenience. And I will, in the meantime, what I have on my laundry list before the site visit is to have the pool installer go out, stake out the limitations of the work, limitations of any extra patio area, and where the infrastructure is going.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
I was going to say, Matt, would you mind us continuing this until our next meeting?
No, of course not.
Okay. In that case, Rebecca, our next meeting is
September 15th, and our first opening is at 7:30.
15th, first openings at 7:30. All right. In that case, I should ask, are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this?
So let me see. I see no hands raised and no chat function.
In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 265 Sawyer Road until our next meeting, Tuesday, September 15th at 7:30 p.m. 2020.
Mhm.
Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
Everybody. All right. All those in favor, Lori,
Aye.
Kip,
Aye.
Jeff?
Give me a
Giving you
thumbs
the-
up. Thank
That's
you.
an aye. And I'm an aye as well.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah.
Thanks,
thank you.
guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you next week.
All right,
See you
thank you.
Have a great night, everybody.
You as well.
Take care.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
I've already officially opened the discussion for 113 Wilder Road. So can we just continue upon into that?
Yep.
All right. Is there anybody here tonight to speak for the applicant?
Yes, we have Jason Moody present.
Okay.
So we had continued the, actually, we had closed the public hearing at the last meeting, and we are, or the commission is voting after being out on site and confirming the location of the trench and the panels. And the trench is going, as we stated in the previous meeting, it's being trenched along the roadside from the house, the existing roadway from the house to the bridge, and then ending the trench, going along the bridge in probably PVC piping, and then going back into the ground in a trench to the panels here alongside the barn that's existing. So there's no trenching through the dry creek bed as noted here on the plans.
So we are limited to discussion, right? Because we've already closed it.
Yep, we're limited actually to a vote.
Okay. Well, then we won't hear from the applicant. And everything on the RDA is how it was discussed, right?
Yes.
It's written perfect. Gosh, and Rebecca, I am so sorry. I should just write these down. I'm debating -3 or -5, that it is jurisdictional, but it's minor.
Sure. So -3 is with
Yep.
conditions, -5 is exempt.
I don't know that we have any conditions to add.
I would say unless there's a specific distance that the commission wants to memorialize from the bridge where the trench will terminate.
Oh, I see. I hate to put that in too if they have to go a little further. I was to say we do have to make. The plan was to let everything renaturalize after trenching, right?
Yep, so that's also a condition that the commission could add.
That's all right. So in that case, I'd like to make a motion that we have a -3 determination for 113 Wilder Road with the following condition: that all trenched areas are allowed to renaturalize or go back to becoming to existing lawn as they were before after the project's done, and that the conduit to cross the bridge. I'm trying to think. What did they say? Within about 3 feet of the bridge. Was that about the area they had asked for?
I think so.
All right.
That's what I remember.
Right, and that should give them plenty of room. And again, I know the area. So, and the conduit addressing the bridge comes up from the ground or goes into the ground no more than 3 feet from the edge of the bridge.
Okay.
Does that basically cover it? I hope.
Yep.
All right. In that case, do I have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor: Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. I will now.
Are we good to continue, or are you?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing regarding a request for determination of applicability under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and under the Bolton Wetland Bylaw, Chapter 233, regarding a proposed tree removal at 147 Sugar Road. Rebecca, is there anybody here from the applicant to discuss this evening?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm just pulling up your project, so bear with me for a moment.
You know, I just turned on our camera, so
Okay, perfect.
it's a good, bad, and ugly.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Right, we're at 147. Okay. So if you would like to just provide a brief summary of your proposed project regarding the tree removal, that would be excellent.
This is Gary.
Hi, Gary.
We have two areas that we're removing trees. One is a tree in the front of the yard that is incurring into the leach field of the septic now. We recently had some septic work done, and they discovered the roots were in one of the distribution. They pulled out what they could, but they strongly recommended we take the tree down and grind out the stump. This is in the front of the yard, on the roadside.
It's not on the roadside, it's in the island in the middle of the yard.
Here.
Of the house.
No, it's right,
Yeah, it's in the roadside of the house.
yes, on the roadside of the house, but it's in the center area where there's three big maple trees in the center of the yard. No, you're in front of the, in the house. Move to your left, I think, with the cursor.
Here.
Yes, right there, that's the one.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, there's one tree there.
Yeah, just that one will be removed.
And then in the back of the house, right in the outside the landscape area on the slope that goes down to the stream, we have several damaged trees that we're worried that will start to either shed limbs or
Fall over.
fall over.
Excuse me.
And there's a pine tree and the rest are cherry trees, and all have some sort of disease starting. The pine tree is the biggest and probably the greatest at risk. Plans were to take down the trees and leave the stumps. We're not going to grind anything out. So we keep that slope supported by the existing roots there. Any questions?
I don't have any initial questions. I'm actually curious to hear, Rebecca, have you been out on this site?
I have not been out on the site related to the tree removal yet. We were out on the site, I think last year or 2 years ago, for another minimal project. I believe actually that other project may have been exempt. But I don't have concern actually with the trees or the tree at the front of the yard since it's out of our jurisdictional area or just upon the edge of the jurisdictional area. I would like to see, and I had mentioned to Gary that it may be that the commission wants to conduct a site visit. So if he could flag off the trees that he's proposing to remove, that would be beneficial so that the commission can go out and clearly see, okay, these are the trees looking to be removed with no, and I also mentioned or posed the question of, it would be important to note, are you going to be stump grinding or not? Are you removing the whole tree or are you leaving it as a snag? Those details. Because there's no stump grinding going on, so long as it's not within the bordering vegetated wetland, I think I would be fine with it. If they are clearly diseased or falling over, because there isn't any stump grinding going on, maybe the commission will go out and see it and want it to be left as a snag versus the whole tree to be removed. But I haven't been out and specifically reviewed the trees other than driven by and seen the one in the front yard.
We weren't grinding those.
Right, exactly.
Just need to be cut. The cherry trees, we've been having some issues with because they're just, I think they're old and deteriorating. The pine tree seems fine.
Okay.
The problem with that one is it's huge, and I'm scared to death if it comes toppling down that it's going to come down on the house.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem cutting part of it down, but certainly something needs to be done, at least for my peace of mind.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Well, I was just saying, give my thoughts too. It's usually, as Rebecca said, that's what we'll do is come out and take a look and basically ask you just to mark or tie something around the trees that you want to remove, so we know what exactly we're agreeing to and we can see them. Kind of how we've done it in the past. Curious if any other members of the commission have initial questions on this one.
Jeff, you're muted still.
I think that a site, I would agree. I would agree a site visit. I would agree a site visit ought to be worthwhile, just to take a quick look at the trees. Just to make sure. I don't have a problem with the one that's going into the septic system. If they're gonna, clean that up, that's would be the right thing to do. The other trees that are in the back and that great big pine tree, let's go take a look at it and make sure that we know what we're talking about. And I'm going back on mute.
Okay, Rebecca, you can organize a visit.
Okay.
Commission member.
Oh, you froze. Or maybe I froze. Brian, are you there?
Rebecca, is anybody here from the audience tonight that wants to come?
Let me see. I see no chat and I see no hands raised.
Okay. In that case, applicant's permission, we'd like to continue our next meeting just so we can come out and get a site visit, and then we should be able to sign off on everything at our next meeting. Is it okay if we continue it?
Gary?
We have a schedule on the 16th. I think it should work if we can get a visit before then.
Yes. That's what we would plan to do, is to schedule a site visit, actually hopefully next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, like I'm sure you just heard me suggesting to our last applicant, so that the commission would have all the information that they need to make a decision at the next meeting, which would be the 15th.
Next meeting's the 15th.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
And the next meeting's the 15th?
Yes, sir. Yep,
Okay.
that's fine.
That's the soonest.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 147 Sugar Road until our next meeting, September 15th, 2020 at 7:45 p.m.
Yep.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, Rebecca.
Thank you. And Gary, I will be sending out an email to the commission this evening to try and schedule a site visit. And I will let you know as soon as I hear back from a quorum of the commission. Again, they'll be getting back to me individually with their availability.
Yeah, we're pretty flexible. And my wife works from home and I'm retired, so honestly,
Okay.
we have.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Um,
Rebecca, let me know when you're caught up.
I am caught up.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have a request for a certificate of compliance.
Yes.
We do not need to officially open that.
Nope. And that request, they actually requested a continuation again this time. They actually do have the information they needed. I was able to, they requested, we find that some information in the file that provide a little bit more clarification on what was done. So they will be updating the narrative, and they will also be providing the commission with some maintenance logs that are also required through the existing and now expired order of conditions, which is what they're requesting the certificate for. So they will be at the next September 15th meeting with that information.
Okay, and so we do not need to continue or move it. That's just by way of explanation, correct?
They have requested the continuation, so we need to.
Can I ask a
No.
question?
Oh, please.
Yep.
I'm just, you mentioned something about a narrative or other information on what they've done or what they're doing.
Yep.
The whole reason I'm here is to find out what they're doing. They're referring to repair work on things such as a sidewalk that doesn't exist. So is there some way I can take a look at what's there if I came to the town hall or what they're proposing?
Yeah, so they're not proposing any new work.
Okay.
You are more than welcome to email me or call the conservation office and schedule an appointment, and
Okay.
I can have that file available for you if you would like to look through it. And we can sit and talk about it as well if you would like.
I would. I will be in
Okay.
touch after the meeting. Thank you, Rebecca.
Wonderful. No problem.
All right, thank you, Rebecca. So simple roll call vote.
To continue? Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Please.
So, is it a public hearing?
Nope.
So, all right.
It's
In that
just
case,
memorializing it still.
sure. I'd like to poll the commission to see if it is okay to continue the request for certificate of compliance for 460 Main Street until our next meeting, September 15th, 2020, as requested by the applicant. All those in favor, Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant,
Aye.
and I'm an aye as well, Rebecca.
And then this is John Cole. Okay. I'm ready when you are, Brian.
Rebecca, let me know when and if you are ready.
I am ready.
All right. So next up is a discussion for a request for a certificate of compliance for Houghton Farm Road subdivision. Rebecca, can you give us an update on this?
So this was another item. The continuation was based on just drafting the order of conditions so that they could be the order of conditions, excuse me, the certificate of compliance, because this order of conditions in particular actually requires multiple conditions to be in perpetuity. So the commission, I would hope, would honor that order of conditions and those conditions in perpetuity and issue ongoing conditions for the certificate of compliance. And I will display that momentarily just so that you can acknowledge the exact numbers.
Does this need to be signed?
Yes, it will need to be
We'll do
signed.
eventually.
There are multiple numbers here multiple special conditions that need to be memorialized in the ongoing conditions. Excuse me for. I apologize.
All right.
So these, yes, this will need to be signed, but this is the draft certificate of compliance as promised. And these are the special conditions that will need to be memorialized in a motion and carried over in perpetuity. So once the certificate of compliance is signed and then it is recorded at the Registry of Deeds, all of these special conditions will also remain in perpetuity with the life of the property.
Okay. Do I need to specifically refer to them, or referring to this as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting? Will that work fine?
Either would work fine. I think it's beneficial in this case where it is a significantly large project to, even though it's tedious, go down the list of numbers.
Perfectly fine.
If you would like to just state as drafted, I think that is appropriate as well, though.
Okay. I will try this, and my eyes are bad, so let me know if I messed up the numbers. I'd like to make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for Houghton Farm Road with the following ongoing conditions. That the conditions in the original order be maintained, specifically special conditions number 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 24, 38, 41, 42, 43, 46, 48, 49, and 51. Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant. You're giving the thumbs up, aye. And I'm an aye as well, Rebecca.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Rebecca, when you are ready, do you want to give us an update on 250? Oh, please.
Yes. So let me just see if we have a representative present this evening, which I am seeing none, which is fine. So for 258 Hudson Road, we were I was recently out on a site visit with them to go through some items that they had left regarding the order of conditions to be brought into compliance, and they were working on those. Additionally, a question was posed for both items related to other departments and the order of conditions for the jurisdictional areas of the Conservation Commission. And that was the inquiry about the wood chips along the slope of Basin 2 and Basin 3 as being and remaining in place as a permanent solution for stabilization of the slope versus stripping those away and then seeding the area. So that is the question that's being posed is the commission, it's just, we wanted to relay this information since it wasn't clarified and they had been having erosion issues. The wood chips that have been in place on Basin 2 and Basin 3 are stabilizing that slope, again, in those specific locations. So the inquiry is, is the commission comfortable with this as a permanent solution since it wasn't clarified in the order of condition what is to be used?
I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. Is it wood chips until it naturalizes and grows in underneath, or are they proposing they're going to be replacing these wood chips once a year?
No, so the idea would be, and I can reach out to them to have one of their representatives provide a brief narrative about what their plan is for it. But what it was explained, how it was explained on site, which works on multiple sites, is that the wood chips would be in place and allowed to compost, and then whatever natural seed or whatever seed bank is there would then take and vegetate the surface as it decomposes. And there is some vegetation already coming up, but it's not substantial. So it would be really the wood chips not being replaced, but composting in place, just to be clear.
Have they applied anything else over the wood chips or anything as they're decomposing?
Not at this time in terms of the seed mix. What they have done is they've been trying to vegetate the areas around or at the top of the slope where the wood chipped areas are. They have been having difficulty, which is one of the items that we've been addressing while out on site. Myself, the engineer and the town planner have been out on multiple site visits to ensure that this property is brought into compliance. And the wood chipped areas have not been hydro-seeded or over-seeded with any mixture. But Lori, is that something that you would like them to propose or that you would like me to ask of them?
Well, I just don't know if it's beneficial. Obviously they're waiting for something to act naturally. Is
right.
To add something and wood chip over it? If it's just a seed mix and as it starts to decompose, the seeds of that seed mix comes up as opposed to invasives or something else coming up.
Okay. I think that's a good point because there are invasives on the property, not within the recently disturbed area for the subdivision itself, but within the areas that have remained natural and within our open space. So that is a very good point that you bring up in terms of providing something that will compete with those species versus just trying to wait and see what happens. Yeah, but what I'm not sure about and what I would like them, and I can certainly reach out to them to provide in writing, is that material when it's composting, is that enough to grow in, or is it not really a substance that will support that, which my belief is that it would, but that's just something I would like to hear a little bit more about. But I can certainly suggest that to them and state that that's what the commission would like to see if they are going to use the wood chips as the permanent solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, my concern is just, if you leave it bare with nothing there, then obviously, the birds fly over, and what's going to happen is something they're picking up from what's around the area. You get rose bushes or bittersweet or whatever else. I would assume they must have something that's an annual mix with a perennial mix, so the annual mix would root fast and hold it until the perennial mix takes hold.
Yeah. I will, if that's what the commission wants to see, I will definitely require that of them, in addition to the wood chips that they've placed there.
That makes perfect sense to me. Any other commission members have outstanding thoughts on this?
Makes sense to me as well.
Rebecca, did you have any strong thoughts?
No, I will say the wood chipped areas are probably the most stable areas on the site at the moment. Or I shouldn't say that. Within the course of the subdivision, since they wood chipped, those are areas that have been more stable. They are getting some vegetation now, so that is beneficial and will reduce any erosion in the near future as that vegetation comes in. But I think Lori brings up a good point that looking at the longevity of the stabilization of the slope, it would be beneficial to vegetate or seed over the material that they're hoping will compost in place. So I'm comfortable with it, inclusive of the seeding.
Okay. Is there anybody from the public here to comment on this evening?
I am looking right now. And I see no one.
All right. In that case, shall we move on to 933 Main Street?
Yes. I will, their representative is present. I will state that they do have a filing in with us for the next meeting because their work is jurisdictional and it is up to the commission to determine whether or not it is exempt. They did provide a wonderful, very in-depth document that was beneficial for further understanding where exactly and what exactly they were proposing on the property at 933 Main Street, which is here. So I simply stated that in their detailed document that they provided, it's clear through their own statements along with the mapping that it is jurisdictional to the commission. So we suggested requesting a determination of applicability, which they did not meet the deadline for to be at the September 1st, which is moved to this evening. So they have been placed, I believe it's 7 o'clock on the September 15th public hearing. But here, I believe Paul is present to give a brief summary of this project. We did want to place it on the agenda so as an informal item so that the commission, if they so choose, could be proactive and schedule a site visit prior to the next meeting. At least that was the hope.
So I can make a brief presentation if you're interested.
That would be great if you could give a brief summary.
Okay. So what you see in front of you is the GIS mapping through the town of Bolton, and you can see the property boundary line and the boundary of Still River that appears to be significantly further to the north of the site. One of the things, first of all, I have to compliment the landscape. This is a landscape project. It's doing some, we're restoring the pavers, a walkway in the front of the residence, some foundation plantings in the front, which is on the opposite side of the resource area. And also they want to restore this, a lawn area, which I've included some photographs, which we'll go through quickly. I actually, so the landscape contractor, when they were out there, they had scheduled the work, and when they suddenly realized that there seems to be a stream running in the back, they actually asked me to see whether, in fact, I thought there was any jurisdiction, and I felt as though basically it made sense to actually contact you. Actually, if you go back up one, so while in fact you saw that plan that showed the stream further away, if you take a look at it, the property boundary, which is that lot 1C, looks like the brook actually runs along it. So the GIS mapping is not necessarily very accurate. So we also provided some measurements to help the commission see what we're doing. So as we run through again to the next one, this is basically dimensions. So you have Still River to the right. You then have a lawn area. So there's approximately 16 feet plus or minus of a vegetated buffer to the stream, of which some of that is BVW. There's a 19-foot lawn area, lawn plate, and then it's about approximately 30 feet from a retaining wall up. I'll show you where, in fact, the work is with regard to that. But this is actually a view of the area looking to both the east and the west. This is actually, the top photograph is the lawn area that we want to restore. The bottom one is on the left-hand side is the Still River. The retaining wall you can see is on the right. No work is occurring anywhere in that particular area. It's only occurring in this area that you see spotty grass. There's another view looking west, same thing. It's the lawn plate, Still River will be on your right, retaining walls on your left. And then that's a view of the front of the house. This is what they're proposing on doing is providing a little bit more stable, providing a couple of stepping stones and some low retaining walls, stone retaining walls. And at the top of the sheet is that lawn plate, which basically Still River is to the top of the sheet. And so we'll have erosion control placed there. There's not a lot of earth movement. It truly is, again, a landscape plan. And I have to commend how many landscape contractors do you have? I have, in my experience, not a lot of them actually recognize the limitations and the concerns associated with Wetlands Protection Act. So I have to commend them for actually coming forward and asking to go ahead and help work that out. So this is the restoration on that little area that you saw that there was, we want to restore the lawn. And then the next one up from the next one down, I apologize. Next one down would show the front entry. So that's the repair of the walking path and some landscaped areas. So what I've made in a narrative that I've given you, I believe that while this is clearly within the 200-foot riverfront area, no question about it. It also, a portion of it falls within the buffer zone to the bank and the BVW to Still River. I believe that clearly underneath both the bylaws and as well as the Wetlands Protection Act, that these could be classified as exempt activities involving landscape. And so that's the request that we're making to the commission. If you wish to either agree with that, or then if you feel as though there's a need to have some conditions on that, we fully understand. But I think that a good argument can be made. Again, this is purely landscape work that's being proposed. And again, the reason for this is that we'd like to get started on the work. Fall is the key planting time. And again, we're trying to accelerate the process so we can continue to move forward. And that's basically it.
So I think the best step would be for the commission to come out and take a look at the property, just so that we can see on the ground where those resource areas are and the limit of work that's being proposed. Even though you're showing images of proposed lawn, and I do appreciate the fact that clearly your landscaper is aware of the limitations of jurisdictional areas. But there are some times where existing lawn has already encroached upon jurisdictional areas. So that's what we want to check up on as well, to just ensure that these are areas that have been landscaped for some time. They should either remain that way, therefore potentially exempt, or we've seen some projects, or I've seen some projects where unfortunately individuals have not known the limitations of the site and have over time encroached on that. So I think the best next step would be between now and, since you are on for the public hearing at September 15th for the request for determination of applicability, the commission would be mindful in requesting a site visit and conducting that next week if time allows.
Whatever's convenient for the commission.
Thanks.
All right, Rebecca, I tend to agree. Again, we can't really move on it tonight because it is just an informal discussion. But yeah, I would be happy to go out, take a quick look, and I think we should be able to hopefully resolve it next meeting.
But thank you very much.
No problem.
What I'd like to, well, actually, I'm actually in the middle of another hearing in Waltham. They're not.
Okay.
Transferred. I'm right now coming right up. So you tell me the time and date you want, and I'll be able to meet you out there.
Okay, I will. What I'm going to be doing is I'll schedule the site visit with the commission members once they get back to me on their availability, and then I will contact you. Okay, Paul?
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
Bye
Good
now.
luck with your other meeting. Yeah. All right. Have people, while Rebecca's getting caught up, had a chance to review the September 18th, 2020 meeting minutes? And if so, were there any questions, comments, or issues regarding them? Okay. Not hearing any. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes for our September 18th, 2020 meeting as drafted and submitted. Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor, seconds and thirds. Starting with Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant,
Aye.
and Rebecca, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
Would you like to give us some updates,
Sure.
if possible? All right.
We are still looking for our next volunteer land steward. The position is still open to join our wonderful group of volunteers or come out of our wonderful group of volunteers. We also, which I always forget to mention during our meetings, we still have a seat open that's been open for some time now. So anyone watching who would like to join the Conservation Commission, we would greatly appreciate it. And this was brought to mind after we did not have a quorum for the first, which was people are on vacation, people are away or sick. So that having a full board really does help resolve some of those issues. So I did just want to put in a plug for that.
Can I interrupt you with that part of that plug? Is we do also have non-voting members. You do have the option of joining as a thank you, as an associate member of the Conservation Commission. So if anybody does hear this by some odd reason and is interested, you would not have to vote on things right away, be responsible for anything right away. You can join as an associate member, which just lets you come to the meetings, come to the site visits, hear the conversations, basically everything we all do, except you don't have to worry about voting. If you're worried about voting on things, that's a good way to start with the commission. I know that's how I started.
Thank you, Brian. That was good.
Sorry about that.
I always forget about that.
I do too. And, you know, it really, I think some people are leery about starting right away and having to vote on things. And it's not a bad way to get associated.
I would agree. Our Taggart project updates are that we are still working on closing. We are projected to close towards the end of October, which is timely as we should be hearing back from our grants, fingers crossed, related to that same project. So as I hear back from those grant programs and as we come to a close, I will be keeping you involved in that. I did speak to Ms. Taggart recently, and we had brought up as part of the initial outreach that at times when properties are donated or acquired from a particular individual, sometimes the individual likes to honor whomever brought that to light. In this case, it was her father. He had great interest in conservation in town, and he had great interest in the town as a whole, and he did love Bolton. So she did inquire about what type of project she could do or she could provide funding for, related to, we had previously mentioned a sign, like our property signs that we have on all of our properties. That's a common practice. Our kiosk that we typically save for the Eagle Scouts, and I did note that to her. And we also have benches, or in the case of the Hanson property where the Sullivan cabin was, that location where we have the area delineated. So in historic areas, sometimes it's delineated by rope, or there's a plaque there and then a bench placed there of some natural material. And she is going to get back to me with what she will be proposing. And I stated that we would be more than happy to work with her and figure something out that would benefit, that would honor her father, but also benefit the town, and conservation minded as well. Mail, we did receive 2 notices of intent, one which will be on the September 15th agenda. We have also received some training opportunity, which I would encourage the commission and the general public, if you live on West Pond or Little Pond, or any pond considered a great pond, and it's specific to docks and permitting and licensing those docks. Specific to Chapter 91, getting an order of conditions, and local harbor masters, which, believe it or not, a town like Bolton can have. So this is going to be provided on September 29th from 1:30 to 3 p.m. And it's going to be provided by the DEP circuit rider. And this is something that we want to stay on top of and make sure that any docks that are in place that may not be permitted properly, or because they may not be aware that they need a permit for it, we would like to bring them into compliance, because there is going to be a significant effort to bring them into compliance. And if they're not, unfortunately, it will end up being a significant enforcement matter. So I've already notified at least 2 individuals who, while on the property for other reasons, noted that you either need a Chapter 91 and or filing with the Conservation Commission, depending on the structure. So the training that will occur on the 29th is actually going to provide a lot of information related to that. The outputs will be an FAQ, and then a sort of checkbox process on what you need to accomplish to get your dock properly permitted. So those are some items that will come out of it, which I will post to the town website. But I did just want to make the commission aware, and also the residents aware, that that is a wonderful opportunity to start coming into compliance with that. Are there any questions about that?
No, I was gonna say, I assume it's a Zoom or a Google Hangouts.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it will be. And I'll send you that information when I receive it. They requested individuals RSVP to see if they had an interest, and they actually have more than they expected as an interest, which is beneficial. So now they're just going to continue scheduling that. So 2 items for maintenance and management items. Rattlesnake Conservation Area, we will be starting an initiative to remove the burning bush or winged euonymus on top of the lime kiln, and that's going to take some time. Also, we're going to address what Emily had brought up, one of our commission members, at the last meeting, where we have multiflora rose identified, but yet at the same time, we want to just make sure that it is managed. even though it is identified. So it's a great visual and educational tool, but we also want to manage it in a and keep it there in its most minimal state possible if we can. And that is a huge effort. So if you're looking for something to do and you want to assist with stewarding properties, you can contact the Conservation Office. The other item that has been brought up is at Bower Springs. I have reached out to 2 companies to try to get or find out the cost of what it would take to do an ecological assessment of the ponds, since we did receive a complaint of the ponds. It is a highly trafficked area of Bower Springs, specifically with dogs. I have no issue with dogs. I have 2 of them myself, but the unfortunate truth of the matter is every time I'm out on the property, there are either bags left or dogs are digging at the beaver lodges, or they're digging holes and making them worse. So it's adding a little bit to the maintenance of the trails. The other thing is DPW will be working towards improving the area. They are doing it as they have time, and improving the area meaning the parking area. We delineated where we were going to place the rail ties as previously approved by the Conservation Commission. So they're starting that process, and they will be chipping away at it as we move into late fall here. But they hope to have it done obviously before winter so that they know where everything is so that their plows can get through safely. One thing that was brought up as we were talking about the parking area and on site was the fact that there's a concern about the trash at Bowers. And it's not that there's excessive amounts of litter, and I feel we're very lucky that it's not terrible in terms of trash considering the use that that property sees, but there is a significant amount of dog waste, and that entire trash is dog waste. And yes, we don't want it on the trails, but it was brought to my attention that when those trash barrels are emptied, there is so much weight from the dog waste that it breaks the bag and then becomes an issue where it's now not only on the conservation property, but now our DPW workers and other town staff, it almost becomes a public health issue at that point, because now they're trying to pick up with something like a shovel, which doesn't work very well all the time anyway. So that is a concern of mine. We do provide the dog bags there. It is beneficial because it's not as much on the trails, but like I said, we still do see it on the trails in terms of the bags left or feces on the side of the trail. And the concern is the basket there, or is the trash bin or the 2 trash bins there really doing anything if we're still having an issue, because that amount of dog waste is on the property. It's being removed, so it's not there permanently, but where else is it going? And what I've asked is the individual who brought it up from DPW, as other individuals have brought up to them, and I've seen proof of it as well, is if they could note when they do trash removal over the next month or 2 and document how much is actually there. And if there is even any other trash there that they can even see, or is it all just simply dog waste? And not only will that show us and confirm the use of the property, but it will also allow us to better assess, should we be providing this service, which I think to an extent, yes, because it's removing it from the conservation area, but I think we need to find and work with DPW to find somewhat of a happy medium. And also it needs to stick with the reminder that you're carrying out what you're bringing in, whether that's your dog waste or a snack. So as strange as that sounds, but I was curious if the commission had any thoughts on that, before we even got that data back from the DPW.
I don't. I'm kind of with you. I'm not sure what the solution is. I like the fact that we do provide a place to put the dog waste, because I think more people would just leave it on the trails if we didn't. And providing the bags, like, same thing. We have dogs. We're used to bringing our own grocery store bags and all that stuff. But there have been times it's like, oh, shoot, I forgot a bag. And it's like, oh, it's nice. There's one here. So I like providing it. And I like giving people a place to use it. I don't know what the solution is. I'd be curious to see what their numbers are. I'll start looking around and asking. I don't know if there's any other major dog parks in other cities or towns that deal with issues like this and how they get around it. But I guess that's where I'm at right now.
I think, Brian, you brought up a really good point just then, is you compared it to other dog parks. And I'm not picking on you, but I'm picking on that statement, because I think there is a level of, and I do love to see the amount of people that enjoy the property, whether they have a dog or not. I think it's excellent. In the age range that we see out on that particular property is also wonderful. But unfortunately, I have had to remove from various sites that state it's a dog park. This is a wonderful dog park. Bring your dog here, which, yes, we allow dogs. We don't have a leash law in Bolton. We have recently been encouraging individuals to have their dogs on leash. We have our new dogs rules and regulations, but at the end of the day, I think in the near future, we're going to have to do a push for education and outreach on the difference between a dog park and a conservation property. And again, I'm not picking on you.
No.
I'm just respectfully noting it for the meeting and the minutes, and the fact that this is very well known for that purpose. And it's very difficult to change the perspective of that property.
Any other initial thoughts from people?
I guess you can't really be mad that people are actually utilizing the trash bins, whether you make smaller bins.
Exactly.
I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I guess, whether it's smaller bins, or is there some kind of disposal system that decomposes the waste, or, I mean, if they're doing what they're supposed to do, then maybe it needs to be picked up more, or
Yeah.
I was trying to think of like a mini dumpster too, and I hate to do a dumpster, but if there was like a mini or a smaller size dumpster, and it might just be that conservation has to build it into our budget for next year, and that we contract somebody that comes and picks up the dumpster every other week.
Well, are there dumpsters that people pick up for the horses or whatever? But unfortunately with this, they're in a plastic container. That's
a good point.
When they pick it up, now there's a waste matter where a farm animal there isn't.
Right.
So, Rebecca, are you talking about?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Are you talking about the trash barrel at the entrance to right off the parking lot? That one that's always overflowing. Isn't there? I noticed at Lowe's that they have now really thick bags that are. I'll grab one and drop one off and show you what they look like, because I grab a sample of it. But maybe we just need a thicker bag to go in there. I don't know.
And I just wanted to communicate it, because I told DPW that I would, but I think it's worth working with them, whether it's the thickness of a bag that maybe we also work into our budget, I don't know, or the frequency of the pickup, but just making the commission aware of it, that this is.
Do we pay for that pickup? Does the commission pay for that pickup?
No.
DPW does.
Correct.
Okay. So the only other thing that I would like to comment on, and one of the things that really bothers me, is when you're walking the trails and somebody walks in there with a bag and picks up the dog poop and then leaves it beside the trail in the bag. I don't know whether they expect it to walk over somewhere or leave, or deep control, but I don't even know how you could do that. Didn't we have some woman who wanted to do a genetic testing on dog poop at one time? Wasn't there some strange thing that we had a couple of years ago that she wanted to track it all? Or
so some towns, I actually believe, do that. Some towns also have a almost like a bark ranger that they do at the national parks, where you have to
Yeah.
come to town hall, you have to read through the regulations, you get sworn in to some extent, and you get a tag of some sort or something to put on your dog tag that says, I understand
will
the
comply.
regulations and I will comply. And if you don't, then you're off the property. So there are different tools to utilize to ensure that individuals are aware. And that's what I mean by also establishing that it's not a dog park, it's a conservation area. But I think all of this plays into the impact to the property. And if you're respectfully utilizing the property, as most people do, that goes away. And there are different tools that some towns are using that are a little bit more costly, but not egregious, that ensure that they know their community members are aware of what's a responsible use of these properties and what's expected. Including picking up
it's
food
basically
on the trail.
it's basically anecdotal about how many people are using that property versus how many people use the other ones. Just because you happen to see more people because it's smaller. And then, I don't know whether there's a way of tracking how many people actually use the property that you could say, okay, we're using this property so much we have to enforce this. And I thought we had a leash law for that. Not a leash law, but it's, what is it, a recommendation of how many of dogs being on a leash? It's not really a law.
No, it's a regulation.
It's a regulation.
So it backs up to our bylaw, because in our bylaw, it does state about passive recreation. I can't remember the verbiage off the top of my head, but
Yeah, me neither. But even though we don't have a leash law, we basically have a leash regulation.
Yes.
Or a leash advisor.
Conservation properties, yeah.
Yeah,
On
conservation properties.
properties, yes.
Right. So when one of us is on the property and you see some guy walking by with 4 dogs and they're not on leashes and they're just running around like crazy, you can say, we have a leash thing for this property. And when they tell you to go bleep yourself, we don't, then I don't know what you do.
Get their name
and
their
you
license
ask
plate
them
number,
politely.
and you report it.
Yes, you can politely point it out, and that's about all you can do, right?
Because I've done that a couple of times and had people talk back to me about this, so I just let it go. It's, but anyway, I do like that property. I think it's great. We have that camp that the kids all use, and the dogs seem happy when they're jumping in the pond, and I don't know if they're chasing beavers around or not, but they seem to have a good time. And it's good that we have people using it. But overuse can also be an issue too. And I don't know how you control that.
So and that's what I'm hoping the pond assessment will show us is, regardless of whether it's a dog, whether it's a human, whether it's a child, whether it's a
beaver,
whether it's a beaver, what is the impact to the resource areas and the conservation property? And like you said, that will then allow us to say, we have this data that shows because of the traffic or because of individuals swimming in the pond or dogs swimming or peeing in the pond, it has now impacted it in this way. That's an adverse impact. Therefore, we have to restrict this. Or it may be everything's fine.
Wouldn't that be a good project for an advanced science class at Neshoba High School?
I was just going to mention that I don't know what sort of funding we could find or potential grant funding for a volunteer or an individual to come out and assess how many people are on the property or how many dogs are on the property, or do a little bit of education awareness, whether we get like stickers or something so that they can go through the regulations and say, now you're a bark ranger, or whatever that may be. But the education outreach, as well as collecting that data for the various properties, not only Bowers, to better understand the use. And we did have 2 interns this summer, so it's possible that maybe we get interns this coming summer for another project like I just described. But those are all things that I can certainly search and look into further.
Well, let's not put more things on your plate than you already have, but let's try and figure out let's just try and figure out, now that we've discussed it, maybe we can find somebody who is a science teacher, a naturalist teacher at the high school, one of the community colleges nearby that would like to do this, and we'll see what we can do. It's on my plate now as well. So enough said. I'm going back on mute because I've taken up too much time as it is.
Perfectly fine. Do we have anything else outstanding this evening?
No.
All right. In that case, I would like to make a motion that we officially adjourn the Thursday, September 3rd, 2020 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, Lori Stevenson,
Aye.
Kip McNamara,
Aye.
Jeff Bryant.
Aye.
All right. Rebecca, I am an aye as well. Thank you for everything and good night.
Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Night.
Good night.